Yo, what's up? It's Driscoll. In today's video, we're going to move away from tearout a little bit and we're going to go back to some real riddim or trench, whatever. So let me show you the example track and then we'll go from there. Alright, so for this drop, most of the basses are done within the Reason Rack plugin and specifically within Malstrom. So I'm aware that probably a lot of you don't have that. So I'm thinking of making another video next time on how to make that type of rhythm using Vital or something like that. If you guys are interested in that, make sure to let me know down below in the comments. But for this one, we're going to be using the Reason Rack plugin. So the first sound we're going to be looking at sounds like this. And this is how it sounds without any of the effects, straight up from Malstrom. So the patch itself is really easy. I just went with a square, going into some saturation a little bit, and then a comms filter. For the comms filter, I like to use a comm minus most of the time. I don't know why, it just sounds better. But I like to use a lot of resonance. And then with the frequency knob, I choose a spot that I like, and I keep it there. And this frequency knob is one of the main elements that I'm going to modify later to create variation. Using the mod B, you can do your basic modulation. So I chose shape 20 and I applied it on the volume all the way up. And then using the sync and the one shot, you can put your rate. Like I said, I want 8-note flow, so I choose 1/8. And then I applied that shape on the filter on the negative side, -20. So it's actually inverting this shape onto that filter. Alright, and then on the second modulator, mod A, I chose the ramp down, shape 11, and using the sync, I put it on half notes, and I applied it just a little bit to the pitch in a downwards motion, -12. So as you can see, the initial sound is pretty basic, but that's what you need if you want to make rhythm like that. Then I added this chorus flanger with a little bit of modulation, and the rate is on half notes as well. The feedback is -42 and the delay is 16. These two are also pretty good to automate if you want to create variation. Coming after is a phaser, also on a half note modulation rate. The frequency and the split as well as the width are pretty good to automate as well if you want to make some variation there. So you see that only that is already creating a lot of movement, and there's tons of possibility of variation only using these three devices, the Malstrom, chorus flanger, and phaser. After that, I chose the Scream 4 distortion on the tape setting. P2 is all the way down and P1 is all the way up. I'm not using the EQ there in the middle, but I activated the body on the B settings, and these three parameters are also pretty good to automate and will create different sounds really easily. And then to finish it off in the Reason Rack, I added this reverb on a really small setting. The dry and wet is at 44. This reverb is amazing. Like already the sound is almost perfect. Then into the post-processing, I started with these two downward OTT, meaning that there's no upward compression going on here. Followed by these two dispersers. And if you have good headphones, you can hear the low frequency shift that it's creating. This is really nice. And then I like to add a little bit of delay on whatever settings my flow is. In that case, 8 notes, only on the higher frequencies, and a small feedback and a small wet setting. That way, every time there's an empty space in the flow, it's going to be filled up by the delay. Then I added a little bit more reverb, and then just an EQ to cut off the low end and boost a little bit the mids and the highs. And that post-processing will stay the same for all the other bass variation in the drop. So this first sound doesn't have any automation. It's basically just exactly what I showed you there. Going into the second sound, we have the same post-processing. Nothing has changed. Sounds like this. The difference comes from Malstrom and the Reason Rack. The pitch slope changed a little bit. The frequency of the comp filter changed also. I removed the modulation from mod B to the filter, and I just probably modified just a bit the phaser and the chorus flanger, the body of the distortion, and then I got that sound. That little variation here is an automation on the frequency knob. So in that little section, I have 3 different settings of the comps filter. The first part is on 93, this small section is on 85, and then it goes back up to 101. And that's all the modulation on that sound. I have this variation here also. So all of these are just duplicate of the first sound every time. I just duplicate it, modify the comp filter, the chorus flanger, the phaser, the body of the scream distortion, and that's it. I just find variation like that. So for this one, same thing, the post-processing is all the same. The difference is on the phaser and on the chorus flanger, maybe a little bit on the body there. And this automation is the frequency of the comps filter going down over time. Also, this sound is a square 4 this time. So when you have a square 4, you can start playing with the index and the motion as well. And you can modulate them with mod B for the motion and mod A for the index. And then here at the end, before all the drums come in, I still have that same sound, except the automation on the comps filter keeps repeating itself like that. Right? And then we get into the real drop here. So this whole section of the drop is alternating between quarter note and 8 notes. This one is the quarter note. And the only automation I have in here is the comp filter. So everything you see there is a comps filter setting. Everything else doesn't move. So I modified the settings from the first sound, less delay, less feedback, moved a little bit probably the phaser, the body of the scream distortion. But the only thing that makes the variation interesting is the movement of the comps filter here. And in between all of these gaps, we got some 8 notes. Right, so same thing, you duplicate one of your patch, modify the settings I said, create a sound that you like, and then automate the frequency knob. This whole section is on only one setting for the comps filter, and then I change it over here, change it back over here, all the way through at the end, change it again for even more variation. When you play these 2 patches together, this is what you get. Next section, this is again a new patch. It sounds like this. This time I went to quarter note flow. As you can see, I modified the settings I said, delay, feedback, frequency split and width, the body of the distortion, and then I just play around with the comps filter. This is what this automation is for. In the gaps here in the middle, I'm going back to this sound, the 8 note flow, just modifying again the comps filter over here. And then at the end, I'm going back to this sound that I already showed you and just again put a different settings on the comps filter. And then for the last section, I'm going back to this quarter note flow from the first part of the drop, change the settings on the comps filter, and that's it. You see, like, this is really not complicated. Like I said, you just make one sound, make it easy, don't overcomplicate it for no reason. Choose a good setting on your comps filter, add some chorus flanger and phaser and tape distortion in this case, play around with the body, and every time you want a variation, change the chorus flanger settings, change the phaser settings, change the body settings, and automate the frequency. Like, you can do whatever you want, but I'm trying to give you kind of a recipe to follow if you want to make rhythm like that. Then you can be creative and do more stuff. But at least doing what I just said will make your job easier when you want to make that type of rhythm using Malstrom. Then the last but not least, the sub bass. For this thing, I've been using Vital. I'm using the basic shapes. This is the second frame of the basic shapes. So for this one, I only reduced a little bit this harmonic. I think it sounds better than the original sine wave like that, just because of these two more harmonics there. Other than that, the patch is really simple. Quarter note on the volume. Note that I'm not going all the way down to the volume because I want to make sure that there's always a little bit of a sub going on in the back. But that's it. That's the patch. There's no effects, nothing. One EQ to cut the high end. I boosted a little bit the low end, but that's it. And then I have a duplicate of that for all the 8 notes section. So yeah, guys, that's how you make old school rhythm using the Reason Rack plugin and Malstrom. If you guys enjoy rhythm videos like that, make sure to let me know down below in the comments so I can make more. Like I said, I know a lot of you probably don't have Malstrom, so next time I'm going to try making it on Vital. This is basically the same process, but if you guys are interested in that, do let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video and got some value out of it. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel to not miss any of the future videos. This is Driscoll, and I'll see you guys in the next one.